can read it in our Iowa about its Jackson County history and what a wonderful thing it was. Phil wrote the article. He recognized everybody that did anything as far as getting this done. Certainly Larry and Jan Ward that donated the windmill from his father's farm. And all the different things, Peter Hoff, who made the stencil for the sign that went on it, and all the restoration and moving it and putting it up, and it's just a wonderful story. So, and a beautiful picture of our machine shed. And our windmill, that if you haven't looked at it, does operate. It does pump water when the wind blows. And so it's a wonderful thing. The amazing thing is it's signed by Phil Gent, Monmouth, Iowa. And never once in the article does it say that Phil Gent really had anything to do with this. But he did. He was the instigator. He was the one who thought it all up. And it turned out to be a wonderful thing for our machines. And so thank you, Phil. He's right back there. And I know he won't stand up. Anyway, please enjoy that magazine. It's just a really, really wonderful magazine. So just quickly, I want to tell you that our program next week for Brown Bag Lunch also going to be from the Hurstville Interpretive Center. This time Jess Wagner is coming. Jess gives wonderful, wonderful programs, as do they all. She's going to be talking to us about Audubon's annual Christmas bird count. I never knew about that, but evidently for eons now in this area, Audubon has done, or probably in all areas, Audubon has done a bird count at Christmas time. And she's going to be talking about that, giving you a little history about that, and telling you about the birds that they found in our area this past Christmas at the Audubon's annual Christmas bird count. So it'll be a wonderful program again next week. So hope that it won't be quite so cold, but I hope that you'll all be able to come. So I now want to turn the time over to Sue Mayberry, who's going to have another wonderful program for us. This is the second program she's done for us. So Sue Mayberry.
So I've learned a few things from the last program. I had 258 slides, which turned out to be way too many. Can everybody hear me okay? No. Not really. Can you hear me now?
No.
No.
You have to have it really right in front of your mouth.
In front of my mouth? Okay, and now?
Doesn't sound like it's
What am I
on.
doing?
Doesn't sound like it's on.
It's not like you're talking. It's really
You guys turn it
Doesn't
on.
sound like it's on.
Tap it with your finger. If we hear a thud, we'll know it's on.
Do you need one light on? Is it okay? Okay.
That's why we
Okay, try now.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Thank you.
There's something about that. It just doesn't like.
Now it's turned on.
Now it's turned
That's the
on.
light's on, so it's turned on.
Okay.
It turns all the way.
All the way up. Now you can hear me. Yeah. A little bit better.
Okay.
So my inspiration for this today was something that I saw in the newspaper when I was researching for another topic. And it's like, I've just got to tell this story. So as you can see, it says, "Yes, George, I'll marry you, and never say a word about your smoking or drinking or gambling or chasing other women if you'll just buy that new house in Maquoketa." So the Maquoketa experienced a housing boom in the 50s, primarily in the late 50s. And this is the map of Maquoketa from 1959. Housing boom of 1958. Maquoketa looks forward to another building boom. Clinton Engine's employees needed housing. Clinton Engine spearheaded the Meadowdale development. Although they weren't directly involved with Green Acres, Thomas Avenue was named after Don Thomas. Here's an advertisement from Sagers and McCausland. Some house plans from the 1950s, and this would be the split-level home that you see. And 2 plans of the week for ranch-style houses. Maquoketa's housing developments. This presentation is focused mostly on the 50s, and I really didn't have time to research all the streets, so there definitely are some that have been left out, and also some of the housing developments. I didn't really have time to list all of those. The popular developments in the 50s were Green Acres, Longview, and Meadowdale. And Meadowdale really has remained popular, as well as Green Acres. And I guess Longview, we might say that too, because I don't know how many of you look at like the real estate ads and so on, but in the last couple years, when any house went on either of these three areas for sale, like it sold that same week. They just didn't last very long. Green Acres is consisted of South Jones Avenue, Thomas Avenue, Center Street, and a portion of West Summit Street. And I think the West Summit ones might be like where the Skelly house, what you might think of as the Skelly house, I'm not sure who lives there now, and then the house next to that. 80 homes were built in the 1950s in Green Acres. 29 homes were built in the 1960s, 1 home in the 70s, and 1 in the 80s. And this was an advertisement in the paper from 1958 showing Green Acres filling fast. This pleasant street of comfortable homes in Green Acres was a cornfield only a few years ago. Located in southwest Maquoketa, between West Platte and West Summit Streets, this area was Maquoketa's first major housing development. New construction continues on remaining lots on its other streets, and some excellent lots are still available for new homes. And I guess I have to reference that as I'm reading this, I'm talking as if I'm in the 50s right now. Because obviously there really aren't a lot of lots left in that area. This is the Allen home, built in Green Acres, and it is a split level. Split level homes provide the maximum amount of living area without having the home consume too large a portion of an average sized lot. Additional living area can be substituted on the lower floor in place of a garage if needed. A sloped lot is essential. Mr. and Mrs. Walter E. Allen are well known to a host of Eastern Iowans as the proprietors of the 61 Drive-In and the, I'm not sure if you pronounce this, Coral or Corral Drive-In near the Moline Airport. Their 2 children are Sigrid, 14, and Jeff, 11. Mrs. Allen, the former Evelyn S. Bell of Bellevue, was born in North Dakota. The Allen home was the first split-level home built in Green Acres. And this was from the March 31st, 1959 edition of the Community Press, Maquoketa Community Press. Contractor Paul Hansen did the brickwork on this unique fireplace that eliminates, oops, I probably should go back. No, I don't want to go back because I might lose my place here. But anyway, you saw the fireplace in the last slide. The fireplace contains an electric log that looks for all the world like a model fireplace blaze. This is the younger generation, the Allen children. Sigrid looks over one of her record albums in her bedroom. The room is done in pink and white with blue walls. Jeff holds a coconut hat that was sent to him from Hawaii. How many of you knew the Allen family? Dave, Shirley Burns enjoy their well-planned 2-bedroom home. Mr. and Mrs. Charles, David Burns, moved into their new home on the south side of Center Street, also in Green Acres, in September 1956. David is associated with Taylor Plumbing and Heating. He is the son of Mr. and Mrs. Roy Burns of the Esgate area. Mrs. Burns is the former Shirley Goodnow and is a bookkeeper for Jackson County Public Hospital. Previously, she was employed by Clinton Engines. The Burns home boasts a large front hallway. Maquoketa Lumber provided the materials for the home, with Alvin Jorgensen serving as general contractor. The spacious front porch is under the roof, which means freedom from a lot of shoveling, sweeping, and ice chipping in the dead of winter. The spacious front hallway is one of the features that Mr. and Mrs. Burns like best. vertical glass panel adjacent to the door provides plenty of natural lighting. This is the Burns home today, and David sold his home in 2015. How many of you knew the Burnses? Darrell Cassidy home is a wise choice in economical space and beauty, and that was built in the summer of 1958. It was built by Bill Fulsang and is located on the north end of Jones Avenue. Does anybody know who lives there now? I couldn't quite locate where this house was. No?
Not sure, it might be Sally Davies and is this on Thomas?
This is on Thomas.
On Thomas
Jones.
Avenue.
This is on Jones.
Oh, on Jones?
Jones
Oh,
Avenue.
sorry, that was not
And I
me.
have to say, your dad wrote most of these articles. So these are his words I'm reading. The siding is of red cedar. A garage, a patio in the rear, and a recreation room in the basement are improvements the Cassidys plan to add in future years. The price of the new home was well within reach of the young couple, with only 5 years of business behind them. To save on the initial cost, Mr. and Mrs. Cassidy spent a lot of early morning and late evening hours sanding, staining, and sealing the woodwork. Story time. Young Joe and John Cassidy give their attention to their mother's account of the adventure of Little Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf. Joe looks as if he is considering the possibility of dropping the wolf in one shot with a rifle from Dad's stock at the sporting goods store. How many of you remember Cassidy's sporting goods store? And that actually, we own that building now. That's where our Farmers Creek and Max Wine Cellar was. A built-in telephone stand was cut into the wall between the dining alcove and the kitchen so that the phone could be reached from either side. In the Cassidy home, the living room walls are pink. The drapes are in shades of pink and green in an old colonial pattern. Anybody else have pink walls back in the 50s? Oops. We gotta go back. Attached to the house, and behind it is a 7 by 22 foot patio. Materials were supplied by Maquoketa Lumber Company. W.C. Rankin and Son installed the heating and all the plumbing. Above is this is part of the large combination living and dining room in the Ray Hancher home. The room is 14 by 28 foot long, which I think was pretty big back then for the rooms. The dining area has a separate appearance without detracting from the overall size. Solidly constructed built-well cabinets are a feature of the kitchen at the Ray Hancher home. All of the units are natural finished white pine, and solid wood was used instead of plywood to accomplish a pure natural finish. I'm sure many of you remember the Hansers, right? The Delbert Hartman home. This 3-bedroom home is a ranch-type house located on Thomas Avenue. Exterior is painted Sierra red with white trim. They did most of the actual construction themselves. Their home was a do-it-yourself project. Textured walls are done in sandalwood brown in the Hartman living room. The home has a combined kitchen and dining area. Island counter in birch serves as both a work table and divider between eating area and kitchen. The well-lighted kitchen has appliances and birch cupboards conveniently arranged to lessen stuff. The bunk beds suit the Hartman boys to a T, and those boys' names were Gary and Douglas. Did anybody know the Hartmans? Leo Heister home blends materials to advantage. 3 exterior materials, red Roman brick, California redwood, and masonite paneling were used in building this home on Thomas Avenue in Green Acres. The narrow vertical panels above the brick are masonite. The roof is old American asphalt shingles. The living room is furnished with functional contemporary modern pieces. Floral drapes cover a large thermal pane window, and the walls are texture finished colored plaster. The room is wall-to-wall carpet. Kind of a term we don't use anymore, wall-to-wall. It was said a lot back then. So Leo Eastern was actually my grandma's first cousin, and she always said that he was her best friend. Walter T. Mangerich. Did anyone know that family?
Mangerich.
Mangerich?
They had the Ford car dealership.
Okay. It has hardwood floors throughout, a full bath, within convenient access of all bedrooms, is done in plaster and tile. A half bath, a boon to any family with 2 or more growing children, adjoins the utility room. Automatic washer and dryer are in this room. But again, there were so many references to the washer being automatic as opposed to. This reprint of a Grandma Moses mural adorns one of the walls in the Mangerich living room. Washable, the mural lends a dramatic touch to the eating area and invariably elicits a compliment from those who have the occasion to view it close-up. The kitchen has plenty of counter, which we maybe wouldn't say plenty of counter, by today's standards, but and birch cupboards, painted a bright and cheery yellow. The kitchen is well lighted and arranged for a minimum of steps for the busy housewife. So I like how they put that spin on, these are smaller kitchens, smaller houses, but they talk about how it saves the housewife all these steps, things she can get done with a real preparation more quickly. So maybe they bought into that, I don't know. Picture of the living room and dining room is in the background. Play and recreation area in the basement. So in the 50s, and even decades after that, people really did use the basements. There's a second television off to the right, and that may be enjoyed without interfering with or interrupting regular living habits of the family. One corner has been outfitted as a teenager's bedroom for daughter Carla. So it looks like, I don't know, that's just, that bed is just there. Fred Sage home features beauty with maximum usable living area. Maybe you know the Sages?
Very well.
One of the nicest features of the house is that its location on a south-sloping slope allows for floor-level entrance on the south side of the basement. Plenty of window coverage. The recreation room will be finished off in a do-it-yourself family project.
Is that the front?
I think it's the back. And I couldn't, again, locate, because it's a walkout.
This would be the north side of the house, seen here, and then kind of the side faces on Thomas Avenue.
And I don't have a picture of the front of it, but do you know whose house that is, or you can recognize? But actually, this will give you a hint here. Built by Paul Hansen, is located lengthwise on a Thomas Avenue lot, almost across from Walter Mangerich home. Give you a clue? Boys' dormitory has nautical touch. Dozens of colorful navy flag hoists decorate the drapes in the Sage Homes Boys' Dormitory. A wrought iron bunk bed and single bed in the 14-by-14 room, plus a wall-in closet provide plenty of space. Gray Cat Oliver also likes his new home, but still makes his extended visits to his old haunts along South 2nd Street. We had a cat that used to do that. When we moved out to Summit, he kept going back to Prospect Street. A good book and a new home. Mr. and Mrs. Sage came to Maquoketa in 1953 when Mr. Sage was named administrator of Jackson County Public Hospital. For the past several years, they have been renting a home at 504 South 2nd Street. Mrs. Sage majored in advertising at SUI School of Journalism and was employed in advertising copywriting for a San Francisco firm during World War II. Nell Scott home. Then and now, located at 419 South Jones. So I think that is the one right on the corner as you turn off Summit. Is that correct? Efficiency kitchen with appliances and storage cupboards arranged in convenient units suits Mrs. Scott very well. Cabinets are built well, white pine with, I don't know how you pronounce this word, it's spelled F-A-B-O-U-L, F-A-B-O-L-U-Y. Is it Faboli or Faboli finish? Faboli finish? Countertops are for mica, which was a popular choice, and you see on the Formica, it's got that little silver trim around the edge, where all the dirt would collect, and you take a knife around it. Ample daylight floods the dining area in the Scott home, creating a bright, cheery atmosphere. Double window has drapes in desert tan and turquoise. Furniture is solid walnut. A modern sectional. They're calling this a sectional, but our sectionals today, kind of join each other, but that's the sectional of the 50s. Large windows accomplish a dramatic effect with a sectional sofa beneath it. L.B. Williams' home, then and now, at 218 Thomas Avenue. The Williams home was built on a high lot in the west part of Green Acres. The location is ideal for the size and the architecture of the home. Lawrence Williams was a doctor, and what kind of intrigued me was in the write-up about this, and you love their home, and it's just great and everything, and the newspaper it never listed what the actual house number was. So I went back and I looked through a directory for the next year, because I thought, I could get it that way. And like a couple years down the road, I couldn't find L.B. Williams. So it's like, why would you leave this beautiful house? This house that they love. But I'm thinking since he was a doctor, maybe he, had an opportunity to move on. Does anybody know? I mean, I don't know, there was Sam Williams, that was here for a long time, but I'm not sure if
They were
relation.
divorced, he moved to California, and she married a dentist in Bellevue.
So now we got the story. Okay.
Yep. Our family was friends with them.
Friends with us. I'm glad you came, because you are providing a lot of filling in the blanks for things I didn't know about.
He had an office in, what was, when they first came to town, and what was Jack Willie's hair salon, and then later moved to where Bruce Paul's office is now.
The new Williams home proves beauty of colonial lines. The boys' room is a 9 pine, and the dining room cherry panel. The open staircase is trimmed in birch. The Williams kitchen has built-in units. I know this one is a little bit different. This one does have the controls down below by where the burners are, but a lot of the ones that were sold by Penrose, and then later I think maybe Sam Grunwald, they had the controls for the burners up in the range hood. Have some of you seen those before? They were up there, which then when we were selling them a new one, it was kind of presented a problem because you didn't have everything that you needed, and you needed to replace that cooktop. Fireplace is handsome native stone. This mantel is a solid slab of the same stone. Paul Hansen built this attractive feature. Are the Hansen, is Paul Hansen, is he still, no, he is gone.
No.
Longview. So Longview consists of Vine Street, Grant Street, and Grant Court. And I guess maybe you would, some of the newer ones I didn't include, so like the Longview Estates. I don't have that documented on here. I was just trying to focus on the early years. So in the Longview edition, in 1950s, 2 homes were built. In the 1960s, 11 homes were built. In the 1990s, 6 homes. And between 2002 and 2005, there were 8 new homes built. And Longview, of course, has been called Pill Hill because of the numerous doctors that live there. Henry Dickinson's home is one of the first in Longview. Built in 1958, one of the first 3 to be constructed in the newly developed Longview. The home faces south, and from its windows, one can see several miles of Jackson and Clinton County countryside. It was built by Bill Fulsang with materials from Green Bay Lumber Company. Windows are of Anderson pressure sealed with self-storing screens. I did not know they had that feature back then either, the screens. In 1958, they moved from their farm 5 miles northwest of Sebula. Their daughter Mary Lou was a sophomore at Maquoketa High School. The Dickinsons met as students at the Iowa State College. For the past 2 years, he has been serving as a science instructor. And I'm sure most of you know the Dickinsons. The Dickinsons have 2 married daughters, Mrs. Joanne Hanson of Davenport and Mrs. Warren Marjorie Metheny, also of Davenport. The Dickinsons have 2 grandchildren, David Hanson and Marcy Metheny. Mrs. Dickinson's interests can be easily discerned from the top shelf. Each of the 20 books and booklets carries chemistry or physics in the title. Now this is the one that I'm hoping Doug will have the answer on this. So, Mac McCausland, he buys this house that his wife never sees. He buys it before he shows it to her. So at 701 Grant. As a real estate agent, Mac said he would have had qualms about selling a house to someone without his better half seeing it first. This spacious 3-bedroom home was built by Alvin Jorgensen. The family moved in May 24th of 1958. Does anybody know why she didn't get to look at it first? Was it just so hot on the market that he had to snap it up?
There's a realtor who can resell it, right?
Yeah, you can always resell it. There you go.
That's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, if she didn't like it, I suppose that is true. You could sell it. So this is 701 Grant today, and I believe this is the Bob and Jennifer Gavin home. After living there for 41 years, they sold their home to the Gavin family in 1999. The W.D. McCausland family, portrait by Ed Grady. Walter, Susan, Jeannie, is it Jean or Jean? And Mac look as if they are pleased with their new home, which they are. Both native Iowans, Mr. McCausland was a teacher in a St. Louis embalming school and took a position with the Carson Funeral Home in 1944. In 1952, he joined Blair Sagers in the real estate and insurance business, Sagers and McCausland. Mrs. McCausland is active in the community, a member of Mother's Club, PTA, and served as a Cub Scout den mother, and is at present a troop leader in the Girl Scouts. Mac's avocation, more than a hobby, is photography. And they had a large basement in their home. Mac showed Robert Melville the basement, where 32 children were entertained in the room at a Mother's Club Christmas party. Brownie meetings were held there as well. Kellens and Birch installed the Lennox Forced Air oil burning furnace. The McCausland house had plenty of room for overnight guests, with twin beds in each of the children's rooms, and a Davenport-type bed in the rec room, and a bunk bed in the utility room that could be moved out and put into service. So we don't hear that word Davenport much anymore. The McCausland family finished this off as a do-it-yourself project, with a ping pong table in the foreground, a card table on the left, and a TV lounging area in the rear. A planter with built-in bookcase, shown on the picture on the right, appears in many other houses. So also, I noticed after a while that shadow boxes were quite popular in the living rooms and bedrooms. Meadowdale. So and third edition. Anybody know who the streets were named after? Okay, so Don Wentworth gave me that information, said that it was the builders that were their children's names. So that's where they came up with Kathy, Susan, Lisa, and Symphony. So the first edition included East Grove, Kathy Drive, Susan Drive, and 2 houses that were on Butternut. In that first edition, 42 homes were built in the 1950s. Only 1 in the 60s, 13 in the 70s, 2 in the 80s, and 1 in 2021. And I believe that was because there was a fire, a house that burnt down. 19 homes on East Grove are in Meadowdale. All are in Meadowdale first edition, except for 1 was in Meadowdale third. In the second edition, that would be Butternut. There's 21 homes, although 2 of those homes are in the first edition. So the second edition, there weren't any houses that I could see were built in the 50s. There were 12 built in the 60s, 6 in the 70s, and 1 in the 80s. And then I guess mentioning going back to Meadowdale first, there were homes that are on East Grove that are not in Meadowdale. And those were built between like the 70 and 1988. So here's a map of Meadowdale showing the streets and how, you know, it's just designed a little bit differently with the curves and everything. Meadowdale construction. Residential construction at Meadowdale continues at rapid speed, and indications are that it will pick up even more during the next 3 months. And again, this is a newspaper account from 1958. New paved streets, now under construction, will make 28 additional lots available. There are 24 new homes in the development and more now being constructed. Workers above pour the basement for a new home to be occupied soon. There were a lot of open houses. And, you know, the reason for its popularity was it was just so affordable for everybody. So in many cases, you didn't need a down payment, and your payment would be $74.84 a month. You could get a quality built garage for just $26.89 a month. Now, I was told that in Meadowdale, when you ordered your home, you couldn't have both a basement or a garage. You had to choose one or the other. And many chose the basement with the intent of building a garage at a later time. Meadowdale was touted as the safest place to raise your children, with the gentle, curved, paved streets and T-intersections. Order your home now. Move in before Christmas. We've got it made in Meadowdale. That was kind of the reoccurring slogan. We've got it made in Meadowdale. There were so many ads when I looked through all of the newspapers from 1958. It was just crazy. Just seemed like every page I turned, it was Meadowdale, Meadowdale. And then in 1959, you know, that just kind of really tapered off. So I suppose most of the lots had been sold already. Here's another ad for an open house. And for just $400 down, your payments would only be $62.49 a month. Melvin Jones was a resident contractor. And you could finance your home with a low-cost loan at Jackson State Savings Bank. I was kind of surprised to see, you know, I mean, you had to make the choice between a basement or a garage, but yet the price of the basement only added $1,000 to the cost of the home. So I'm not sure why you couldn't, you know, why you couldn't do both.
I know that they came up with those rules when doing HUD housing. Could it have been something like that?
I don't know, but that would make you wonder.
I think we live in Maine, and I think it was HUD housing.
So maybe it's somehow, okay, that would make sense. And that was just Meadowdale. I don't think any of the other housing developments, you didn't have to get, did you know?
No, I have a few comments. I think you guys didn't know this. My husband and I were coming back from Minneapolis, and we were on 52, stopped in Preston, Minnesota. And this Minnesota car, a gentleman and I were at the checkout kind of conversing, and he seen we were from Iowa, and he said, "You're from Iowa?" And I said, "We are actually from Jackson County, community south, Maquoketa, south of Dubuque." He said, "We lived in Maquoketa." And I said, "You lived in Maquoketa?" And he said, "Yes." And he said, "We lived in that addition by that fairgrounds." I said, "You lived in Meadowdale?" And he said, "We did." And my dad worked at the grocery store out on Pratt Street. And I said, "Your dad worked at the Super Value?" He said, "We did." My dad did. And there was a little amusement park thing. And I said, there was a little merry-go-round, and there was a Ferris wheel. And he said there was something that you kind of went in. And I said there was a little fence. And I said, "You are a Mackey. Is your last name Mackey?" And he said, "Yes. How do you know that?" I said, "You have a sister that went to school with us in middle school. You guys must have left about middle school time." We did. But he said, "We lived in Meadowdale."
So there was a Mackey Maytag business, so
Yes.
that was probably theirs.
That was
That
probably
was
there.
theirs.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, thank you. So again, very affordable, only $75 down, so it appears that some people had to pay, a little bit down, and others didn't have to make the down payment. The Devines find Meadowdale just right for family, and they built a United States steel home. Here is the attractive exterior of the Devine home. Shake siding is in light green. The carport does double duty as an attached garage with direct access to house during bad weather, and as a nicely shaded patio for outdoor living and relaxing during the summer months. They were the first to buy a Meadowdale home, and when they moved in June 25th, 1958, it was a neighborhood with no neighbors. Mr. Devine converted one of the bedrooms, now remember there's 3 bedrooms, he converted one of the bedrooms into a den and office to headquarter his work at Maquoketa's Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance representative. Later he plans to finish the basement and move the den office down there. They like that the neighborhood is away from heavy traffic and is quiet and safe for their children, but at the same time close enough to church, school, and shopping. So when I mentioned the 3 bedrooms, and they already have 4 children, and possibly 1 on the way, and so 3 bedrooms, 1's a den, 1's for the parents, so they share the room. So to the left is Tommy, sitting on Mrs. Devine's lap, then Susan, Kathleen, Barbara, and Mr. Devine. The walls are all wood panel, and the floor is completely carpeted. The Robert Devine home today. John Dobb home on 1005 Cathy Drive. We like it in Meadowdale for several reasons, says the John Dobb family. There are lots of friendly neighbors, paved streets, and it's a clean, wholesome place to raise your family. We highly recommend Meadowdale to any prospective home buyer. John Dobb home today. Dobb family enjoying their new home. And I think looking at her kitchen, it looks like she maybe chose the metal cabinets, which were sold by the Taylors, Harold Taylor. I'm trying to think of the name of the business, Taylor Plumbing and Heating. And so there's several other homes where you see the metal cabinets, but for the most part, the slides that I have been showing have been wooden cabinets. The Paul Repfrigate home. They may have had 2 different homes, because when I found an address and I looked it up, it's like it couldn't be that house. It just looked too different. We like the beauty and privacy that our backyard provides, says Paul. We highly recommend Meadowdale to any prospective buyer. The home has a large bath and lots of closets and a terraced backyard.
So,
Did you?
They moved away once and came back and bought another house.
That's why they, okay, because I knew we delivered appliances to them, but I just couldn't see how that was. So here's Paul and Pete and their dog, Louie and Grace, and they were, I love that family. They were one of my favorite customers, Paul and Grace. Very nice people. What wife wouldn't like this large kitchen? And there's Grace Breckford too. Lots of light and plenty of eating room. Eddie's second edition included Eddy Street and Eddy Place. 3 homes were built on Eddy Street between 1954 and 1965. 10 homes were built on Eddy Place in the 50s and the 60s. And this is the Asher Schrader home. Everybody knows Asher Schrader, new Asher Schrader. The Schraders moved in the spring of 1957. The landscaping and lawn already presents a complete and attractive appearance. Beds of flowers with many plants in full bloom are located about the premises. They and their 3 boys, Bill, John, and David, are enjoying their new home. They had previously experienced SUI family-type housing. What is that? Is that military housing? SUI? Oh, see. Oh, okay. And apartment living. General contractor Bill Fulsang drove the stakes for the foundation. Cement was furnished by W.G. Block Company. County Attorney Asher Schrader is serving his 2nd term. He defeated Ray Sokol in 1956 and was unopposed last year. Some 15 years ago, he was digging in on the narrow confines of Normandy, Beachhead, along with several other Maquoketa area veterans. Getting through law school and being elected county attorney looked like a very distant and highly improbable goal at that time. Mrs. Schrader is shown studying Spanish. When I took the picture, it kind of cut off, so I'm not sure. Was she teaching Spanish? Does anybody know? Or are we going to take a trip or something? No. Better than the life of Riley. The 3 boys are ready to spring into action for a summer of fun. Ball games, fishing, and swimming. Bill 12, John 8, and David Otto 6. And doesn't Bill look just like his dad? So much. The Schrader kitchen. The cabinets are Philippine mahogany. There is a stainless steel sink, built-in oven and range, and a Manna combination refrigerator freezer. Not to be confused with just, is in the background. So they like to differentiate that you are getting one with a freezer as well. Now they had that popular divider in their bathroom that had the planter. North 2nd Street housing.
Catherine Schrader was a seeker.
Yes, I forgot to mention that. She was. She was a seeker. She was Otto's sister, right?
Yep.
Okay. Owen, I never know if I'm saying that right. Is it Hoot or Hoot? Hoot. Owen Hoot built home for comfort, convenience at 403 North 2nd. 26 by 30 frame house, constructed and completed, pay as you go, was a do-it-yourself project from start to finish. Hoot and his partner Don Wake are local contractors and builders. The family's new home is small, says the Hoots, but it was planned that way, explains Mrs. Hoot. We wanted it for comfort, convenience, and family living. They have 2 sons, Craig 8 and Kevin 3. Mrs. Hoot admires the efficiency of her kitchen. And it's tailored, the cupboards are tailored to her height. Now, when I read that, I thought about my mother-in-law. When she built her new home 30-some years ago, and she walked in the kitchen, she's showing it to me, and she reaches her arm up. She can only reach the lower shelf. That's as far as she could reach. And so the contractor, Darryl Paulson, he moved everything down quite a bit. So now she could reach 2 shelves, but not the rest of them. But that was an improvement. The Hoot living room has functional furniture of contemporary design. Mr. Hoot made much of the furniture in this room. How are we doing on time? And a picture of their bedroom, which would be the master bedroom, and the kitchen, featuring birch cabinets and the ever popular Formica countertop with the trim. Vermont Street. Clifton Lambert home. Brick construction adds much to the exterior beauty of the Clifton Lambert home. Drive is in concrete. And he did own like some type of construction company, but I don't know if he did much with concrete, but I know he did like the paving, like they would go around from town to town. Because my husband worked for him for a while, and they would, like, they put down the little gravel and then the tar, and, you know, people would hate to see them all come in, because you know how that got stuck on your tire wheels and everything. But. And then he, of course, started laying on trailer park. Materials and taste make Lamborn home among the best. And there's their living room and kitchen. They have a white-faced buffed brick fireplace, built-in bookcases and cabinets. And in the kitchen, you can't see everything there in that picture, but there's a built-in stove, oven, washer, and dryer, which now no one usually has the laundry in their kitchen for various reasons. South Main Street. The plan chosen by Dr. and Mrs. Leroy Hepker makes an ideal professional man's home office combination. Offices are on the left with their 2 separate driveways and parking area. It was 2 days before Christmas that Dr. and Mrs. Leroy Hepker moved into their new residence. Working with contractor Alvin Jorgensen, they have just added a dining area that adjoins their private home entrance. This provides plenty of room for the 10 places at the table, plus an ideal spot for games and play. And Mrs. can still keep an eye on the younger set, referring to the second set of twins. The reception room, there are 2 adjusting rooms, 3 dressing rooms, and an X-ray photo dark room. There's the younger set of twins. Dean and David, aged 7 months, on the turquoise and pink living room carpet. Doc Hepker in his workshop. They moved to Maquoketa in 1948 after his graduation from Palmer School of Chiropractic. Rosemary is from Grand Mound. This one I love. Okay, so this is what your dad wrote. Meals Unlimited. With 10,950 individual meals to serve this year, think about that. Rosemary Hepker is delighted with her attractive, labor-saving kitchen. The family includes Rosemary Paul 9, Robert 8, Donald and Donna 6.5, Sue Ellen 4.5, Brenda 2, Dean and David 7 months. How did she do it? How did she do it? East Platte Street. C.W. Neargard home. The kitchen has a work area on either side of the double sink. Then in a soft blue, the kitchen is enhanced by a large mural. The bathroom is conveniently situated between the 2 bedrooms. It has pink plaster walls combined with black tile. Fixtures are in pink. Tile floor is black and pink. And the bathroom window has a black and pink matchstick draw drape. The living room has a lived-in look. So is that kind of in the 50s they were aiming for? Because before it was always formal, you're just supposed to sit there and not really use it. Is that kind of where that term came from? Mrs. Neargard's bedroom is unique in that she has it outfitted to serve double duty, for sleeping and for pursuit of her hobby, hand-hooking rugs. Davenport and side lamp permit her to retire from the living room, while the man of the house views a Major League Baseball game on television. And to read, relax, write letters, or work on a rug. West Summit Street. The oldest home on West Summit was built in 1860 and the newest in 2005. West Summit has 51 homes, 2 are in Green Acres. The others are in Shaw, Wilcoxburg, Maskries, Beatty, and Panghorn. 30 of the houses on West Summit Street were built in the 1950s. East Summit only has 3 homes, one built in 1900, 1954, and 1954. A striking white-faced New Mexican brick exterior provides one departure from the usual in the new Carl Rotman home. Large chimney at left is from modern fireplace that separates the living and dining rooms. The walls in the family room are paneled in birch, and the floor is solid vinyl. This is a picture of the Rotman kitchen today, for comparison, which was remodeled by Larry and Kathy McCulley, and they, within the last year or so, recently sold the house. So this house now has its 3rd owner, and this is what it looks like today. So that house really has not changed a lot, I guess, because of the brick. The Jorgensen development. So I had never heard of the Jorgensen development before. How many of you have heard of the Jorgensen development? Other than I just told you, so, no. Jorgensen development growing. Okay, is that your house, Sharon, on the right?
It might be.
That's what I'm wondering. Okay. So the newspaper article said it was off to a good start with 2 new homes completed and more planned in the Jorgensen development in southwest Maquoketa. A number of larger than average lots are available for those who like more spacious surroundings. The area is located near Green Acres, just south of West Summit Street, near several other new homes completed in recent years. That, I mean, direction-wise, it just makes it seem like it has to be worse.
I'm not sure about the next house, though.
That one, you don't think that house with those windows like that? I remember those windows being like that. Franzen's lived there. You know, Roy Franzen lived in that house.
It is.
Country homes. And this was in the paper, but I don't know, maybe those aren't necessarily homes in Maquoketa. I can't really identify that, other than those are the country homes. Does anybody, do they look familiar to anybody? Just kind of hard to tell. Furniture for country homes. And new this year is the octagonal supper table with 8 wedge chairs. Well, that was a popular design. Not all women want homes. Some just want a cute farmhouse at 50 acres with a wraparound porch that's overlooking a bush to the wild. Just a cute farmhouse. This is the Melville House, which you well remember. Located off the east end of Pershing Road, this split-level home overlooks the wooded Maquoketa River Valley. The lot was purchased from the farm of Walter Rockwell. Curved windows are at the front of the living room. Plans were drawn by J.L. Stockham. A strip along the west portion of the lot was graded level for outdoor games. And there from left to right, Doug 12, John 4, Janice 7, Annette 2, and Miriam 9. And the Melville House today at 1078 Pershing. Maquoketa's north end. The Mr. and Mrs. Harold Taylor home. So Mrs. Taylor, was her name Bertha?
Yes.
Taylor designed the home and was his own contractor. House has a full basement with utilities. Mr. Taylor has a workshop and tiny play area there also. Mrs. Taylor spends several hours a day with office duties at Taylor Plumbing and Heating. And there were quite a few advertisements in papers that I saw, like in later years, you know, advertising the metal cabinets for the kitchen. Tommy's room has vinyl tile floor and requires very little waxing. A closed chute in the bathroom extends to the basement laundry. The kitchen has a serving counter, a large work area on either side of the double sink. And then this is kind of a mouthful here. A rotary corner dish storage cupboard. What do we call those today? Casey Susans. If they even make those anymore, I think they have a little bit different. A built-in flour bin. And then she also has a rotary base, corner base cover for canned goods storage. The appliances are all gleaming white and the countertops are Formica. The living room is large, 12 by 25, and there are Swiss scenes in those pictures on the background. Her walls are in sandalwood, and the chairs are turquoise and coral, with beige carpeting. Compact laundry means ease and convenience. I look at that and I'm thinking, no, by our terms now, those are not compact, but as opposed to having to have the rinse tubs with the wringer, I suppose that would be. Darwin Riesling home is as tasteful inside as its trim exterior promises. This home includes an exceptionally large and well-appointed living room, combination dining room den, a small music room, a large kitchen, 2 large bedrooms, large bath, full basement, and a roomy built-in garage. One wall of the living room devoted to the fireplace, decorative shelves, and convenient cabinets. The Darwin and Florence Riesling home is located on the north side of Highway 64 at the west limits of Maquoketa. And Anna, maybe you'll know, did they move that house out near Emmeline because of the highway or because of the nursing home?
Because of the middle of the highway.
Okay. Contractors Owen Hoot and Don Waite had originally built the house as a residence for the Waites, and they lived in it for a time and then built another. The concrete work was done by John Earls with materials supplied by Rockdale Stone Products. James Current did the plastering and Dwight Tipple the exterior. But yeah, I think the house was moved. Would you say Emmeline area?
Up in there somewhere, I really don't know where, but up in there somewhere.
I think it's near, like where Doug and Jeannie Flegel live, if any of you know where they built that log cabin. It might be just down from the schoolhouse, the Emmeline
Somewhere.
schoolhouse. Yeah. I just haven't driven by it for years. And there's a picture of Mrs. Darwin Riesling and her daughter, is it
Jean.
Jean, and
Jean
granddaughter.
That would be the oldest one, Sherry.
Sherry. Mrs. Riesling still substitutes on rare occasions. She says it's a last resort situation. She is secretary of Lutheran Church Sunday School and is active in the Hospital Auxiliary, Lutheran Missionary Society, and the 50 Sisters. The family moved to their new home December 10th. And every year, I don't remember taking my son there, and maybe she had passed by that time, but she always wanted us to come there to trick or treat, and always took her picture. So I just remember cutting through the garage, she didn't get in, and very, very nice home. Yeah, so she's my husband's grandma's sister. 1950s housing trends. Green and white were the favorite roofing colors for the homes in the U.S. during 1957. Installing tiles. And you know, they're making it look so easy. Have any of you ever did wall tiles before? The floor tiles are a challenge, but we attempted wall tiles one time. And I'm telling you, it's not. It's very, very hard to do that. Oops. Now I just went back 2 minutes. Okay, we'll just go on from here. Wrought iron has many uses. And if you look at the ad for Gibson and Wells, it says gas conversions. So I'm kind of surprised they're talking about gas conversions, but yet in other ads I'm showing where people are still selling the oil. So, yeah, not sure what was up with that. Or was it just a lot less expensive to buy, like your water heater as an oil?
And smell better.
But I mean, why did people choose? Why were people still buying the oil ones when they could get the gas?
That's true.
Is that it?
Yes, and money.
A lot of them came from wood burners to gas.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know how to say that first word. But I'm not sure I would have wanted
Jealousy.
those to clean those windows. Oh my gosh, look how long it would take. Did anybody ever see one of these?
Yeah, jealousy windows.
Did you have?
They're about 4 inches tall and they come out as multiple awnings.
I suppose though, if you didn't have air conditioning, maybe. Additions of carports were quite popular. Touted having storage units, which Leo Keister used to build a lot of the storage units in the 70s when he worked for Maquoketa Lumber Company. And my husband Jim was working there with him and they built a lot of those. And he said they're still standing there at the Lambourne at Fawn Brook. They're still there. Just kind of surprising that they had a board that they would have lasted that long. And then you could always make extra space in your attic. Vinyl plastic wall paneling is the coming thing. Colorful walls with a vinyl plastic finish that seemingly lasts forever and creates new, exciting decorating possibilities, soon maybe making their appearance in new homes. Some already are being used in public buildings. Bathrooms look more luxurious when done in wood paneling, and for obvious reasons that's been kind of discontinued. Not so good for all that moisture. Correct furniture plays an important part in making your room look and live right. And then there was the trend with siding with the asbestos. And it was talking about accessibility of the bathrooms. And they were saying in the case of the powder room, it should be off the kitchen, which I think probably the homes today are not putting the bathrooms right off the kitchens anymore. The house of the future, what do you think that is? It didn't happen. Made out stilts.
Oh.
Insulation will make it possible for the homes of the future to escape dirt, ground moisture, and termites by being built off the ground on stilts. Maybe they do that in other areas of the country where they have more of a problem. And that was written, that was a prediction by William Sheik of the National Association of Home Builders. I'm just going to touch briefly on some of the suppliers. I really didn't have time to mention many of them. But you had Taylor Plumbing and Heating, Connell Supply. And in my last presentation, I did not list Iowa Electric because I kept seeing the ads. I wasn't looking at the newspaper ads, the other ones, that said always sells electricity. So I thought, God, I was sure that my parents had bought their appliances there, but well, no, it says always sells electricity. Now in the newspaper, I see where they did sell appliances. And then you have all of those GE built-ins, and then the Maquoketa Maytag company got in the, not just selling the appliances, but sold all those awnings as well. 3 lumber yards to choose from. And one of those, I forgot which one was Leo Keister's, might have been Green Bay, is that it? Green Bay. And then there were more paint stores than what I've listed here, but we even had a Sherwin-Williams. On South Prospect Street, 54 homes were built. 44 were built in 1950 or before. Most of them are in Eddie's first edition, 6 are in Butterworth, so those would be the older homes. And I was going to change this because now I'm not sure if it was 511 or 411. I forgot to double check on that. But this is the house that my parents built in 1954. And just to tell you a little bit about my parents, and I think many of you probably knew them, George and Ann Marvin. But when they first got married, and Dad he was an electrician, but he had farmed all his life too, and he wanted to live on the farm in the Preston Springfield area. And Mom said, no, I have to live in town. I can't be that far away from my parents. Well, her parents lived on the farthest east end of town. So, of course, when my parents built a house, they built it on the west end. So I wonder if my dad had something to do with that, And in fact, the next house they built was even farther west. But I said, and in the end, though, my mom, our house is the one in the middle, the pink house. So while all of these other women, they may have had their pink appliances, their pink fixtures, and carpet, she got the house. So I'm thinking not many men maybe would let a woman paint the house white, or pink. And she had a turquoise section. When they decided to build another house, which was in 1967, advertised in the paper, and a lady came to the house and she walked in the door and said, "I'll take it." She didn't even look. Didn't even look any further at the house. So they were in the 1950s. West Quarry had 8 homes built in the 1950s, and East Quarry 2. Emma Court had 4 houses built in the 1950s, and otherwise in that area, the oldest house on that street is 1890. Pershing Road, there's 29 homes, 7 are in Meadowdale, 4 were built in the 50s, 6 in the 60s, and the newest one built in 2001. Western Avenue, 10 of those homes were built in the 50s. The oldest 1880 and the newest 1977. West Grove, 12 of those homes were built in the 1950s out of the 23 homes. North Jones, those 33 homes were built in the 60s and the 70s. And that was called the Riverfront Edition. Circle Drive, I don't have numbers for those, but they were mostly built during those years, the 70s and the 80s. And then we get into Rosemere. So when my parents built their house in 1967, you know, I always called it Summit Street, but it was on the west side of the highway, which is now called 33rd Street. And there weren't any of those houses in the Rosemere Edition or the Country Club, any of those. So we kind of, as I grew up, kind of got to watch all those houses being built. And actually my dad had, we moved out to the country, and all of a sudden the town had, moved back in, so we really weren't in the country anymore. In the North Angus First Edition, which is, North and East Angus Court are in the First Edition. And those were built mostly in the 70s. And then you had Rosemere Lane, which was mostly in the 70s also, and then the Farmland Drive and Battles Drive also were the 70s and the 80s. Swagosa Drive and Country Club Drive. I think, did I miss some other streets though? Are there more streets than that?
Arcade.
I mean, in the Swagosa area. I'm not sure if I missed those. So Swagosa Drive, 15 homes were built in the 70s, 7 in the 80s, and 8 were built in the 90s. Country Club Drive, 14 in the 70s, 9 in the 80s, and 33 in 1990. And then the arcade development, I just mentioned, that began in 1991. Shoreline was around 2004. Timber Court, the early 2000s. The Pocket Neighborhood, 2017. And I know I've missed some other ones. So the handsome knight hawked his shining armor, shot his white horse, married the beautiful princess, and they lived happily ever after in their new home in Maquoketa. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or want to comment on anything? I guess I didn't really stop along the way, so I wasn't sure if there's time.
I know River Village, both 1 and 2, was built way before the 90s.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to back up on that. So Richard brought up a good point about River Village. I just was primarily focusing on single-family homes. So I wasn't doing any apartment complexes at all, because then that was just like a whole nother thing. So you're right, they were built before. Absolutely.
Are you, when you was doing this research, did you find out how Arcade Street got its name?
No, I do not know that. Answer that. Does anybody else know how Arcade got its name? Yeah, in fact, I don't really know how. That would be, with your research to find out how all the streets got their names?
We're working on it right now, as you speak. Absolutely. So if anybody has any ideas about some of the streets, let us know. Thank you to Susan. That was really a fun and interesting day. I don't think I would have ever thought of that topic, so way to go. That was one of them. Excited about how